Hello, and welcome to the Footballers Fixable Alright podcast. I'm James, as usual. Let's meet the guys. How are we doing, chaps? We alright?
Alright.
Yes, I'm alright, thank you.
Dan, you there?
Yes.
Oh, he is there.
I am.
I forgot there's that delay, isn't there?
Yeah. I forgot that we invited him.
Yeah. You'd be able to hear me say hello if you don't talk over me.
Whoa! Wow,
shots fired already.
This is going to be a tense episode.
For someone who's still on probation, that's brave, isn't it?
That was
very
really
brave.
overstepping the mark, wasn't it? I'm ever so sorry. I know my place. I'll go
Little
back to
bit,
my
but
corner.
You didn't. No, yeah, you didn't say it to the leader, so it's fine.
Oh,
It's good for
okay.
the genres, though. It's good. It added a bit of drama, so it's always good to have that.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
It, it added
Tick that
drama
box.
to the episode. So
Yeah,
there you go,
okay,
listeners.
yeah. Cool.
Do you guys see they've got semi-automated offside technology is finally in the Premier League this last weekend we've just had.
Yeah, I didn't even realise it until you pointed it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it ended up still holding play up in what was the game we were watching? It was the Arsenal Brentford game, and it still ended up holding up. So this is meant to be like 30 seconds, and it took longer than that.
Yeah, we saw a replay and we thought, well, that's offside, and then it took them, I don't know.
Yeah, you could
40
see it within a couple of seconds, couldn't
Yeah.
you? Oh, that was
Yeah.
offside because when Tierney scored, wasn't it? That was what it was.
That was it,
But
yeah.
Tierney was clearly a yard offside, and it
Well,
still took.
It is
over
only
a minute.
It
Yeah.
is only semi-automated, so the half of it that is human and run by our referees is so incompetent. It's obviously holding
Yeah.
back the computers.
Yeah, well, this is it. The human element, that's the problem. So when they were introducing it, Sky had this little piece in the build-up to the weekend, right, saying, semi-automated offsides finally has come into the season. But they might have to rely on the human element anyway, because if the box is quite crowded, they'll have to start drawing the lines again. The Champions League don't have all this nonsense. I don't understand. Like, again, we just had the Champions League games, right? And everything flowed really well. The referees are really good. Well, they're certainly better than the Premier League ones.
Yeah.
And the
They
semi-automated
just
offsides,
love
there's
to
no issues with it.
overcomplicate it. They just love to overcomplicate it, don't they? They are such jobsworths. They
I just
remind me
don't
of
know
the
what-
people down. They remind me
Yeah.
of the people down the dump. You know when you go down the tip, right? And everyone's telling you off for every little thing that you do. Like,
Oh, don't
you
put
have
that in
to
there.
Yeah, exactly that. I feel like now all of these people in PGMOL, particularly now you've got this semi-automated thing, they're like going over the top with complications to justify themselves in a role. I think it's what it is.
Maybe
I
it
feel
is.
like
Worths.
I feel like you recently went to the dump and had a bad experience.
I had such a bad experience. I cleared out my shed and I did about 4 trips to the dump, and every single time I got really badly told off.
Yeah,
The worst
it
one
kind of felt that
was-
way. You just wanted to moan
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
I
you had to get that off
sorry,
his
I had
chest,
to get it
didn't
off.
you?
Yeah.
I had to get it off my chest. I'm so sorry.
Well, I wanted to ask you guys an opinion because I don't really know. I don't know if this is a British thing or a particular guy's thing, or if it's just me.
Right.
And I want to know because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. So I was in a situation recently where I was with a group of people and someone started handing some biscuits out, and I decided for the first part to pretend like I hadn't clocked the biscuits because I didn't want to seem like a greedy pig.
Yeah.
And so I was
Yeah.
just looking out elsewhere other than the biscuits.
But you can't take your mind off the
Exactly, yeah. And basically I was
Yeah.
waiting for it to come round so that I could act like I was surprised
Oh.
that I was being given... Oh, thanks very much. That's
Oh,
really nice.
Wow, that was a surprise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been in this situation many a time. Yeah.
Okay, so is it a particular guy's thing? Is it a British thing? I don't really know.
I think there is an element of, again, it's that politeness. British people need to be polite in public. When
Yeah.
as soon as food enters the room, everyone clocks it.
Yeah, so basically, that group of people I was in, we all must have been thinking the same. Like, no one, like, everyone pretended that they didn't see the biscuit. So, seemingly, the person handing around biscuits just kept on hearing people go, oh, thanks very much.
thank you.
That's really
Oh,
nice.
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. It's part of the social contract, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have to, it's being British, being socially acceptable in this country, is you
Yeah.
have to completely be polite and
Yeah, these
consider
are
it
the
of everyone
difficult
else.
things we have to traverse, I suppose, when we're British. Yeah.
it is extra hard work, isn't
Yeah.
it, being British. People don't remember that.
do you
That's why we
ever-
don't win World Cups.
yeah,
It's we have to work twice as hard as anyone else.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. You can choose heads or tails. You know, we you do that absolutely.
Yeah.
You choose which side.
Yeah, no one ever makes a decision because what kind of takeaway do you want? I don't mind really.
We certainly know someone who says that, don't we,
Yeah.
Coops? Speaking of which, we might report to our northern correspondent later in our episode. Shall we? Should we get cracking? Should we get on with it?
Let's do it.
Well, I have to say, what gave us the sort of inspiration for the topic of this episode this week, guys, was USES. So I'm going to let you...
I was an inspiration.
For once, yeah, you actually did something useful. So you sent us in our official Football is Fixable Alright official chat, absolutely useless. Are keepers any good these days?
Yeah, I sent you a video. Let's say that.
Oh, okay.
You can't just say you sent me absolutely useless.
You did. So the video was entitled "Absolutely Useless. Are keepers any good
That's how he
these days?" So
motivates us.
this was a talk sport.
That's how he keeps us at the top of our game. Just occasionally sends us some really damning messages just to keep us in check.
Just absolutely useless. What have we done now?
Yeah.
Care to explain, Sess? What were you on about there then? Something to do with goalkeepers, right?
Yeah, it was a video from Talksport where they decided to have a go at Onana from Manchester United.
Oh, he had a dire week though, didn't he?
He did, and that's fair enough. You can slate his performance. I'm perfectly fine with that. It was deserving of critique. However, the whole idea of that video is basically having a go at keepers, not Onana. And so they used Onana as an example to basically say that all keepers nowadays are just primarily focused at playing out from the back and not being shot stoppers. You know, the good old-fashioned keepers.
Yeah, the old movement these days. All of keepers need to be able to... Yeah, okay.
I just don't agree with that. And I sent this to you guys, and I told you that it's just complete nonsense, really, because if you think about the Premier League, for example, if you think about the Premier League goalkeepers, how many of those are not good shot stoppers? You could point out Onana, you could point out Sanchez in Chelsea, but then I struggle after that. Even the lower teams, I would say they actually are decent shot stoppers. Just because they're good at playing out from the back, it doesn't mean they're not good as shot stoppers. Even Pickford, he's one of the best shot stoppers in the Premier League, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. That's probably the best part of his game, in my opinion. But he's good at linking up at the back and stuff as well. But yeah, shot stopping, I'd say, is
you don't necessarily say just because he can play out from the back, he's not a good goalkeeper. You look at the reason why Alisson is probably the best in the world right now is because he can do both at a world-class level, playing out from the back and being a good shot stopper. I think it's just a lazy argument. And then if you look at 20, 30 years ago, the time that we think is the best period of football.
Yeah, definitely for the Premier League.
They definitely didn't play out from the back. However, I would say there's with just as many calamitous, literally one of them was called Calamity James. There were keepers that would make absolute howlers, just as many as now, if not more. Because if you think of, they were attacking Onana. Let's think back at just United. You had Fabian Barthez famously made quite a few.
He made a few really high-profile howlers, didn't he?
Yeah, they went through Bosnich and Carroll. There were so many keepers that United themselves went through, and I mentioned Calamity James. Everton had a couple like that. You can always think of it. Jens Lehmann made a couple of absolute howlers as well.
Particularly his issue was really with passing out from the back, because he would try and wait a long time and the player would come up and he'd kick it against the opposition player pressing him and it would bounce straight into their own. That happened 2 or 3 times where it just went straight into his own net.
And those are the kind of things. Why is it that now, just because they not only are they shot stoppers, but they have to be ball players? Why is it that now we're trying to point out that they're not good keepers when actually they probably made as many errors, if not more, before, and they didn't even have to play out from the back 20, 30 years ago? I just think it's a lazy argument.
I think as football started to change in the last sort of 10 years or so, because Arsenal had Petr Cech, who he has the most Premier League clean sheets to date currently at point of recording. He was amazing for Chelsea. He came to us, but then the time was he still got a load of clean sheets. He broke the record with Arsenal actually. But it then became
was
more
such an elite goalkeeper.
He was an amazing keeper. But the whole passing out from the back thing started to come, especially as Pep joined the league in 2016 and stuff. And then you could really caught Check out quite a lot, and it almost started to tarnish his reputation. There was some real howlers. He was having issues kicking out from the back, and you could see he was less comfortable in the modern game. So keepers do need to do more these days. There's no doubt about that. It's key to the whole system that we've talked about in previous episodes, and I know Gary Neville had an issue with it recently because the whole robots thing is all system orientated. Keepers are really crucial to being able to, for a team to structure out from the back and everything pass out. But I agree with you, Cess, in a sense that it doesn't mean that all keepers are bad at shot stopping as well. Like you listed a load of keepers there, really good shot stoppers. Alisson's really good one-on-one. I think Alisson's one of the best keepers. He's so good one-on-one. And David Raya for Arsenal, I think he's a brilliant shot stopper.
Flecken has been really good. Sells has been amazing.
Sells, for Forest. He's had a great season up there at the top keepers this season.
I'd say keepers are a much higher level than they were. Like the keepers from that sort of generation that you're talking about, like there was like maybe a handful of keepers that you think are like, oh yeah, they were like really good keepers, if you see what I mean, and they make the odd save and stuff. But I do think so I remember like when De Gea, for example, was coming through, and we've had a really bad patch obviously over the last 10 years where we haven't been very good at all.
Yeah.
And there were seasons where De Gea really, I would say he sort of got us a good 10, maybe 20 points with some of his shot stopping.
Wasn't he your player of the season for 2 or 3 seasons?
Yeah, I think it's like three seasons in a row.
I think 3 seasons running. Yeah.
He
was just he was an incredible goalkeeper. He was at the club at the wrong time, but I remember watching him thinking gee, how is he making these saves? How is he making these stops? And some of the saves and stuff that he used to make that were new at the time, you've seen so many more goalkeepers now doing that. You can see goalkeepers are more athletic than they used to be. They're not just this big empowering presence in the box. They are better shot stoppers than they were before. Beforehand, it was all about your position, commanding your box, and it was like a psychological thing, wasn't it? You look at Peter Schmeichel, the Great Dane, and all
shot
that.
stopping was his key. He famously had that kind of star shape as he came out to play, and that became his iconic kind of saving style. He was about shot stopping.
Exactly. He was incredible at one-on-ones and stuff like that, but I don't think his reflexes were that fast. I mean, I even remember him making the odd mistake and stuff as well, but he was just this huge presence, this really overpowering keeper. Yeah, and he didn't really have distribution, but he had an incredible throw on him. So
that's the thing, though. I think that's the reason why the keepers nowadays are being attacked more, because there's a reason that the whole ball playing thing has given people a reason to attack them. If they make a mistake before, they're kind of like, oh, goalkeeper's made a mistake. But now they can say, that goalkeeper's made a mistake because they're focusing on something else.
Exactly.
Yeah, not their
so
priority.
Really, their issue... Their issue is not with goalkeeping. Their issue is with the modern game. They don't like the roles that goalkeepers are being asked to play, and so they're finding ways. That I was saying to you guys earlier, it's such a lazy argument, for example, to say that Onana isn't a good shot stopper because he's a ball-playing goalkeeper. I've been watching Onana for 2 years. I've not seen him do anything good with his feet in 2 years.
He's just not a good goalkeeper in general.
Just full stop.
No, he's not a ball-playing keeper. It's just a narrative that exists there from I don't know really where. Maybe from the Italian league because it's a lot slower there. Maybe he was able to pass out there. I don't know.
Well, it's funny you say
that. It's not
because
true. He's not a ball-playing keeper.
I'm sure when Andre Onana joined United, when they first signed him, Dan was like, "Oh, he's a much better foot playing.
He plays with his feet.
Ball playing. He's a much better ball playing goalkeeper. He's the best in Europe at such and such last year or whatever it was."
Yeah,
obviously you've got that optimism, I suppose, in the early days before you see him perform.
It's because you guys are blind to your biases. I keep telling you this every time. Like I was saying to you before about Havertz and Jorginho, you'd be like, "Oh no, they're terrible players. Wouldn't want them at Arsenal." As soon as they went to Arsenal, you're like,
Jorginho's
"You know what? That's just
brilliant."
Yeah,
and so is Havertz.
Just what we needed, actually. Yeah,
So when we signed Onana, I think maybe where that's coming from is in Europe he had the best save to XG ratio,
goals conceded,
nonsense.
XGS or whatever it's called, or XGC, or
whatever that is. So
stats.
Statistically, he was the best keeper in Europe. So I think that's probably this is probably when we first signed him. And obviously, sometimes with signings, they can take a while to settle, so you give him a bit of time. But it's been 2 years down the line, and he's just been rubbish.
Another classic signing from Ten Hag, wasn't it?
Oh, don't that summer transfer window. We signed Rasmus Højlund for 70-odd million pounds, and obviously he's been emphatic in front of goal. We've signed Mason Mount, who has played all of maybe 90 minutes in 2 years, and we signed Andre Onana after letting David De Gea go. I think that was quite and Onana was 50.
The keeper situation especially.
We spent close to 200 million on those 3 players, and none of them have offered anything. It's quite possibly the worst transfer window of all time.
Well, can I say to the listeners, right? So before we started recording, Dan said, "I don't think it was Ten Hag who actually wanted him. It was more United and Ten Hag." So Dan doesn't know this, so I looked this up, and on the Man United website, there's an article.
Oh, would you leave Ten Hag alone, James? He's been fired. He's been gone for ages.
He's a fraud, and I need to highlight that he got what was it, 13 million he got paid off for being sacked by United in the end?
Something like that, yeah.
Whatever it was. So I think he can accept a few words against him that are factual. It's nothing personal, it's just factual.
It is personal with you. It is.
Ten Hag said, or Eric said, most important, always for a keeper, is clean sheets, and not doing that on his own. Therefore, what you need is good defensive organisation, and all of it. He was saying the whole defence is about, his first job is about stopping goals going in. But nowadays, football also demands good playing from the back, outplaying qualities, and that's quality that Andre has. So Ten Hag was the idea of not renewing the De Gea contract was they're getting a new keeper in, and he's going to be a ball playing.
That doesn't mean anything, James. Is this after we signed Onana?
Yeah, that doesn't mean
after
he
signing
wanted him.
Onana,
he did want him, and this was well reported at the time.
But what you just read out says that he's basically saying good things about him, but it doesn't mean he had anything to do with signing him.
Exactly.
Oh, so in the article
you're not going to get a signing in. You're not going to get a signing in and go, yeah, I didn't really want this bloke, but here he is. That's not how it works.
Right. You should know this. Being a teacher, you're talking about evidence and all that stuff.
Of course, there's stuff behind the scenes. I get this happens a lot with United. I genuinely feel that a lot happened with Solskjaer. With the whole certain players coming in that they kind of get told. The managers get told that you're just going to have to like it or lump it.
That's what happened,
and that may well be, we'll never know that, but the idea that Ten Hag didn't want him, there's no evidence for that either. What he says here is we wanted someone who can pass up from the back. The implication here, and this was reported at the time, De Gea couldn't do it. Andre Onana is someone who can, and he's literally said Andre Onana can in
that's
his
definitely
quote.
The thing that it goes against him is that well, not necessarily him, but United in general, is that they got rid of De Gea for him. That's just the great thing. And I think but that's the thing. I think the whole thing about De Gea was very much the old classic, 20, 30 years ago kind of goalkeeper.
Yeah, more of an old school keeper.
Yeah. And I think that kind of era, it's very much like you, James. Just very traditional, set in your ways, not really able to look into the future, can't really adapt. Whereas I think the modern goalkeepers, they're still very good shot stoppers, but they've been asked to do more, and they're just progressive and modern like me, able to adapt and look into the future. And I think that's the real difference.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And the old school ones who, when the standard, like we said, even in this episode, was better 20 years ago, those keepers are just not good enough in this less high quality game. Is that what we're saying?
The standard would have been high, but I said right at the beginning of the episode that the standard of goalkeepers hasn't really changed. It's just we're asked to do more in the modern era, whereas you're just set in your ways. That's the difference.
I have a problem though.
Is this the place really to talk about that?
Oh yeah, I got a cream for that.
Yeah.
No, so
let's get back to the football first.
Back to the football. No, I've got a problem with what you two seem to be, as usual, agreeing.
Oh yeah,
always hand in hand, peas in a pod, agreeing with each other all the time, finishing each other's sentences.
Yeah, basically regular human beings, I would say.
But thinking outside the box is what you need, and modern goalkeeping, it needs to be, again, you need to use the eye test. You need to. I remember when Pep came in, he got rid of Joe Hart because Joe Hart couldn't do what you're saying. He couldn't pass up from the back.
Yeah.
If you have the keeper for it, fine. But if you don't, then you shouldn't be using it. So the whole idea about Onana, he's clearly not that good passing out from the back, right? He's clearly not very good at shot stopping either. So it was all kind of a PR disaster gone wrong. The way they presented it, in a way, it's actually materialised. My problem is teams that want to pass out from the back should only do that if they've got a keeper that should enable them to do it. What was it that Einstein said?
E equals MC squared?
Yes, but what he also said, what did he say about the genius thing? So I'm sure Einstein said something like,
between the three of us, we can get this.
Everyone is a genius. Hey, this is serious. Everyone is a genius, Einstein said, I think.
Wow.
But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then it will spend its life feeling it's stupid.
Yes, I do remember, yeah.
Oh, come on, that's a bit of academia into our episodes. So what I'm trying to say is that if the keeper doesn't have that ability, your team should not be trying to get the keeper to do it. So by forcing, it's Man United's fault is what I'm saying. Onana has been put in the firing line to get this abuse, and not only is he making all keepers look bad, because people like TalkSport are, like you said, I was going to say tarring everyone with the same brush. Is that the phrase?
Yeah, why not?
Tarring everyone with the same brush, there you go. So he's giving all goalkeepers a bad name, like you were saying, when actually only certain keepers aren't able to do that, and they shouldn't be put in teams where they're asked to.
Yeah, and there's actually very few keepers that aren't good shot stoppers nowadays.
Agreed, yeah.
Whereas, actually, if you have someone like Pope, where you ask him to play out from the back, he struggles with that.
He really struggles.
However,
but he's a brilliant shot stopper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And that's the thing. He's so good at shot stopping that Newcastle want to accept that he's not brilliant at passing out from the back.
Yeah.
Newcastle know this. He looks really awkward passing out from the back, but they've got really good defence in front of him. They build the structure of the team around him. Newcastle don't play out from the back in the typical way that a lot of other teams are doing. They're actually one of the few teams, actually, that don't pass out from the back.
Yeah.
And that plays to Pope's strengths to more often than not. So
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's how it needs to be. I know it's a bit fixy already. We're getting into the fixes now.
Yeah. Well, we better get into the fixes.
Let's get into the fixes. I've got our grumpy old man Coops. Should we go up to our northern correspondent? Coops, are you there?
What are my thoughts? I can't really remember. Oh, right, passing out from the back. No. Passing out from the back is well, it has its merits, but it's generally pointless. Ultimately, goalkeepers are there to save goals. They're not there to act as though they're the kind of... No, I forgot what I was going to say. What was it? Not to act as playmakers in the middle of the park. They seem to be more focused on setting up goals, on being the centre of attention rather than saving these days. We want more Peter Cechs and less about your paycheck. That's what we're really after in a goalkeeper. And I don't see it these days quite as much as I used to. Let's harken back to old days, eh?
Thanks, Coops, for your ultimate grumpiness there. That was... that's the thing, us traditional folk, I think there's wisdom in those words.
You say us traditional folk. I told you, I'm the more modern guy. I'm forward-looking.
No, I was talking about myself and Coops. We're both like-minded. I need to find someone to agree with me, and you and Dan agree with each other.
While you just sat in the pub on your own.
Yeah, you two over there holding hands. I'm sat on my own table. So, I agree with Coops there. I think sometimes this whole namby-pamby football can be more trouble than it's worth. For certain keepers, though, that's where I'm a bit different. So, right, so for fixes then, guys, how are we going to fix goalkeepers these days?
I'm going to go first because mine's pretty extreme.
All right.
Okay. I think to fix goalkeepers, we should just remove them from the game entirely.
Wow.
No one can complain about
Remove
them.
keepers.
No one
Don't
can
have
say,
goalkeepers.
Yeah. Just think about how much better the game would be. You'd win the scores would be like basketball games.
It would be like 110 to 106.
We allowed rush keepers, like on-field players, get to go and goal. Like
Yes,
that'd be
You've
good.
just improved my fix. Bring back rush keeper.
Rush keepers. So, but only one person can handball it in the box. So if two keepers accidentally do it, wait a minute, he's in goal. And it causes
That was brilliant.
that happens in like six-a-side or something.
That's
In fact, shall we change we'll take the goals away and we'll put jackets down as the posts.
Yeah, or one of them could be a bin. Remember that at school?
Yeah,
You'd always have a bin there.
goalposts.
Dong,
Yeah.
in off the post.
100%.
Well, this is started off. This is a serious podcast, gentlemen.
All right, I'll give you a serious one then.
All right.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. I think the problem isn't the goalkeepers, the problem is the media. The media have created a story around this whole idea that goalkeepers aren't good shot stoppers anymore because their priority is playing out from the back.
Yeah.
It's not. They're still good shot stoppers, but they're just also asked to play out from the back.
So it's in addition to rather than instead of. Really.
And I think what's going on is the media are saying it, which means that all of the fans listening to TalkSport and all that stuff, they're listening to Roy Keane or whoever it is saying it, and they'll just start saying it themselves. And it's our job, as the footballers fixable, or whatever we're called, I can't remember. It's our job to remind everyone that it's just not true. Actually, just have a look at it yourselves. Think about the team that you support. I support Everton. Pickford, brilliant shot stopper.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Before him, we had, Tim Howard, brilliant shot stopper. He wasn't for United, but he decided to be brilliant for us.
No, it was terrible for United.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, this. Players don't seem to work at United.
Yeah,
then they go off and have good careers outside.
Yeah.
I think this happens a lot.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. I think there is no problem, but the media have created all of this, and now it's just been taken by everyone. They just think, oh yeah, because they're ball players, it means that's their focus. No, it isn't. It's one of many. It's the same as wingers and strikers nowadays. They're all asked to do different things, but we're not saying they're no longer good.
Yeah.
There's still very good players. They're just asked to do different things.
jobs. Especially, there's been a lot of talk, and we've done, like we mentioned, the topics around how football's changed the system and so on.
Yeah.
The idea is, obviously, Pep's been a big influence. Johan Cruyff it was, who said the goalkeeper is the first attacker. And that's the kind of mentality that we're moving towards, isn't it? The goalkeeper's key to opening up the game. A team should only choose a goalkeeper, essentially, if they're able to do that role. So if you want to pass out from the back, you want the keeper to be the first attacker, as Johan Cruyff said. You want to play in the Pep style, as he's famously, even though loads of other managers like Arsene Wenger, for example, did it years before.
Here we go.
Anyway, but if you want to pass out from the back, you need to recruit a keeper that's able to do it. I think you mentioned something about the media there. I think it's the club's fault as much as anything. And this gives me another chance to have a go at United. They have set Andre Onana up to fail. Sorry, Dan, but they have. They've portrayed him as this keeper, and Ten Hag himself said, and this is the ability Onana has. He clearly doesn't. He clearly isn't able to play this way that United want to play.
Yeah.
Whether that's a wider problem with the other players United have. But
this is just another player that I'm sure will leave and have a better career elsewhere, because he was very, very good at Inter Milan. He's just another player that just can't deal with playing at Man United. So... no doubt the defence in front of him is a key factor. Yeah, I don't think it's a setting him up to fail thing. I think it's just a player that's not good enough to play for a big football club. I don't think it's fair to pin that on United, but it was.
I think Inter Milan are quite a big football club.
Yeah,
they're They were one of the biggest in the world.
Well, obviously
they still are.
Well, clearly the pressure isn't as much there as it is at United, though, is it? Because he was much better there than he is for us. So.
But he did have some really good defenders. I mean, Inter Milan this season, for example, have the best defence in the Champions League. So it might be also the players. Obviously, United have had a bit of a temperamental defence in front of them. In front of him, I should say, as Onana. It might be to do with that. But yeah, essentially, you need a keeper who is able to suit the style that you're playing, and that's the thing. So it comes down to the team's recruitment. That's the fix. Don't portray him as something, your keeper as something that he or she isn't.
It's like what you said with Pope and Newcastle. They know his limitation, so they don't force him to do something that they know he's uncomfortable with. They're happy with what he can provide, and they will work around that.
They don't force him to be a fish climbing up a tree.
That is true, yeah.
Listen to Einstein. I mean, if we all listen to Einstein more often, I'm sure society will be a better place.
Was Einstein a good keeper?
Yes, I believe he was.
Yeah. Played Leighton Orient, didn't he? Yeah.
That was it, yeah. I think it's about time we got into fantasy football, guys, and we use some of our guru's power and get some of his fantasy football tips. What do you reckon?
Wow, what a segue.
That was... You keep telling me you want it more sexy, right? That was quite sexy.
It's just so difficult to dial up the sexy tone from you.
Yeah, I know. I need to practice it more. But here's John's juicy tips. Juicy.
Ooh, your tips are powerful, John.
John's juicy tips.
Yeah. All right. It's seriously hotting up in FPL, as 4 of the form teams of the division have double game weeks this week. My juicy tips this week focus on Arsenal, Palace, City and Villa. Here are the best differentials from these teams to give you a big boost up the leagues. In defence, it's the Polish peach, Jakub Kiwior. He started every game for Arsenal since Gabriel's injury. He's below 5 million and less than 1% owned. Next in midfield is the brilliant Belgian banana, Kevin De Bruyne. What a player. Along with Paul Scholes, he must be the best attacking midfielder the Premier League has ever seen. He's less than 5% owned and has just started scoring goals again. And up front, he's not a differential, but he is a classy footballer. It's Marmoush for City. He has 21 goals and 9 assists in the Premier League and the Bundesliga so far this season. Juicy.
Thanks for that, as always, John. Very powerful tips there indeed. I have to say, he's getting closer and closer to Slotty Too Hotty at the top. Sam.
Do you have to say that?
Oh, I do, yes. I do have to say that. What I also have to say is I've had a nightmare. So it's...
for the last 8 months.
Yeah, definitely for the last 8 months. But no, this weekend, because it's double game week for some teams, isn't it? And it is next week as well, as John mentioned there, or hinted at there. So... what I did is I brought some Crystal Palace players in, and they played Man City, and it started my weekend off with -3 points.
Yeah, but that's because you bought 2 defenders and a goalkeeper.
Yeah, but Palace have been really good this season. Like, defensively, they've been they haven't conceded 5 very often, put it that way.
Yeah, but
And Man City have been off it.
You get players like Eze and Mateta and stuff. That's what you need to do. Not load up on defenders and goalkeepers when they're playing against Man City.
Yeah, but right, okay. But I am close to Dan, and actually, he's had more players play than me at point of recording, and I'm close to him. So I'm still looking over your shoulder, Dan. Just got to say, are you getting nervous?
No.
Oh, all right then.
Moving on, yeah.
We have to still decide on the forfeit. So apparently if I come last out of us, I'm wearing a Rooney top, is that right?
Oh, yes.
But we haven't yet decided what Dan's forfeit is going to be when I inevitably
We don't need
overtake
to.
him.
It's not going to happen.
Oh, right.
I'm throwing that into the universe. I'm putting the positive energy out there so that it doesn't happen.
Oh, it's close, let's just say that. Okay, well, if you want to join our league, you can join with 8B8E1L and see if late on, a few games in the season, you can pip Sam at the top of the league, or even our guru John. Thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully we have reassured you that football is fixable. All right. Cheers, chaps. All that remains for me to say is have a good week, and it's goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me. Bye, 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 bye.